German Chancellor Angela Merkel is calling on Vladimir Putin for answers after confirming one of Russia's opposition leaders was poisoned. Test results show it was the same type of military-grade nerve agent that was used in an earlier attack on one of Putin's enemies. Charlie D'Agata reports from London.
If the poisoning of Alexei Navalny intended to make a statement, Novichok comes right out of the Kremlin playbook. German scientists cited unequivocal evidence of a chemical nerve agent, Novichok, a Soviet-era poison that cripples the nervous system, causing respiratory failure within days. Chancellor Angela Merkel called it a case of attempted murder that raises very serious questions that only the Russian government can and must answer. One of Russian President Vladimir Putin's fiercest critics, Navalny was airlifted to Berlin, having suddenly fallen ill not long after drinking a cup of tea at the airport before a flight from Siberia to Moscow last month. He remains on life support tonight, and doctors say it's too soon to know what long-term damage has been done. Novichok is the same military-grade nerve agent used to poison former Soviet spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia in Salisbury, England in 2018. The Navalny poisoning comes amid a crackdown on Kremlin critics, including the beating of prominent Russian activist Yegor Zhukov earlier this week.
Former FBI Russia double agent Naveed Jamali joins me now. He's also a former naval intelligence officer and currently an editor-at-large at Newsweek. Naveed, it is very interesting to have you here to talk about this because you know so much on this topic. So if you could, explain why the use of this nerve agent is seen as a strong indicator that the Russian government was directly responsible. And if it's so obvious, then why would they have used it?
I think, well, so starting with the last question first, I think that Russia very much is not trying to be clandestine or covert about their actions. They're trying to send a message. So this had a dual purpose goal. One was to silence potentially a dissenter and a competitor to Vladimir Putin and someone who might stand in the way of what's happening in Belarus. But it's also to send a message. And Russia, when it comes to using this poison, they've done so with the Skripals, one was a former KGB officer, and this is and GRU officer. This is something that they very much are keen to do. The messaging. They want people to know that it's them, even if it's not always so clear legally to trace it back to them.
And can you explain to our viewers why it is so obvious to you and folks in the intelligence community that this was Russia directly behind it?
Well, for one, the gentleman was in Russia when this happened. He was flying back to Moscow. And two, this is a signature that the GRU has done. The Skripals, who were in the United Kingdom, former Russian citizens. One was a former Russian intelligence officer. And Russia was blamed for that. Where they actually had pictures of the Russian intelligence officers entering and using the same poison in that case. And, to me, that's just what we would call a clue.
All right. Well, Navalny has been at this for a while. His involvement in anti-corruption and opposition activism have taken place over a decade. Is there anything that we should be reading into this particular timing and what appears to be an actual murder attempt? Is there a reason why this might be happening right now?
Well, I would say that there's two probable causes or probable reasons the Russians are acting out now. One is, he spoke out in favor of what was happening in Belarus. He actually mentioned that it was a revolution and warned that something like that could be coming to Russia. And so being an outspoken critic, I think would have drawn attention, and to do so directly challenging Putin's authority is something that would have drawn attention to them. The second thing is that I think the Russians are engaged in, frankly, a pattern of escalation. It's not just this. I mean, they've clearly, Russian intelligence has been active in assassination attempts, the Skripals again in the United Kingdom, but also if you look at traditional Russian military activity, whether it's on the border of Belarus, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's now in Syria and its engagement with American forces in Syria, there's clearly been a posturing by Russian military and Russian military intelligence to really send a message of sort of strength. And I think that those two things are really what is the message behind activities such as this.
Well, German Chancellor Angela Merkel is calling on the Russian government to answer for this attack. We know that that is not Putin's style. And in fact, in 20 years in power, he, meaning Vladimir Putin, has never actually mentioned Navalny's name publicly. So what kind of response can we actually expect from the Russian government? And do we expect that the international pressure could compel them to take any sort of responsibility?
No. In short, no. I don't think there is really an international pressure here. I think without the United States leading the charge, and look, we've seen the president has been reluctant to even condemn Russia when it comes to the bounties on American troops. So I don't expect, Pompeo has sort of said something on August 25th that was sort of, I don't want to say lukewarm, but hinted that he was monitoring the situation. And I don't know what incentive the Russians and specifically Vladimir Putin has to come out and take. I think I can see him almost taking credit for this, but taking responsibility, no, and apologizing, absolutely not. And what are they going to face? More sanctions? Look, the Russians have really been able to position themselves in a place of strength right now. And there's not much leverage to kind of roll that back in. The Trump administration doesn't seem to have the appetite, and Trump himself doesn't seem to have the appetite and willingness to take on Vladimir Putin. So I just don't see what their incentive would be to really do anything other than this, than potentially say something coy and almost take credit for it.
Well, Naveed, that was what I was going to ask you next, because we did hear from the U.S. Deputy Secretary of State saying that he was going to be working with our international allies, including Germany, on a response. But as you mentioned, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of political will, at least, coming from the Trump administration to do anything. And even then, it seems likely that it could just be a couple more sanctions, but nothing of substance to actually deter Russia. Do you expect that there is going to be any action taken on the part of the United States that goes beyond just performative?
No. This comes in the context of the Trump administration saying that they're going to, take troops out of Europe and constantly going after NATO. So no, I don't see any. They didn't really do anything with Skripal. They haven't done anything again with the bounties against American soldiers. So no, I don't really see any substantive action coming from the president or from the Trump administration about this. And against a strongly worded letter, even if it's signed by allies, again, what will that do for Vladimir Putin? It's not going to change his behavior or tell him that he can't get away with this.
Well, let's not forget that there actually is a real person currently lying in a coma in a German hospital. What is the likelihood that Navalny will make a full recovery, or what is the current situation regarding his health?
This is so the Skripals did recover. This is not something to be toyed with. And, one of the questions I have with this is the Russians are very effective at doing this. And this is the second time they've poisoned someone, and whether by design or by accident, they've failed to kill them. So I don't know what his eventual prognosis will be, but I know very well that the messaging is clear, that the Russians can reach out and touch anyone they want, no matter where you are. And that's the messaging that they want people to have. It's the poisoning is one thing, but the messaging is probably the thing that has much more value to them.
All right, Naveed Jamali, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.